On this week's Gridiron Report, we have some Detroit Tigers talk, a Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports what-ifs, some rapid-fire Lions and Pistons news, so let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, August 13th, and 1 year ago this week, our Gritty Tigers were officially born.
Man, that is awesome. A year of just being blessed by good Tigers baseball, just crazy plays in the field, hitting bombs, finally becoming a real baseball team. A team that we've been praying and wanting and yearning for a decade, like an actual decade-long 10 years, and we finally got it last year. And yeah, man, shoot, this year's flown by. I can't believe that it was a year ago that they were dead in the water, 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, and then just finishing so hot, sneaking in, winning a playoff series against the Astros, and then this year, for all the ups and downs, it's been more ups than downs, right, Ty? It's been, man, I can't believe it's been a year. It's been a fun ass year, even though the team's struggling right now.
I think we were a little bit spoiled, and because it has been a lot of ups. It's been a lot. I mean, last year this was the week that we had 0.2% chance to get into the playoffs. I don't know if that was something that was put on a broadcast one day or somehow that got spread out to the Twitterverse. We had 0.2% chance, and people were like, "Oh, that verbal meme of so you're saying there's a chance," and it was 0.2% chance, and then they end up finishing the season 31-13. So that itself was so magical. I mean, you and I were watching those playoff games. It truly, and it was weird because I feel like the Red Wings kind of had a similar thing. And I've never seen so many teams or so many games in which a team pulls it out at the last second. And you kind of were going into games expecting to win those, as strange as it was. So we kind of were, I think, a little bit spoiled a little bit. And then that carried over to this year, how they started the year so good. And so I think that makes this last month and a half, 2 months of bad baseball hurt so much because we were spoiled for so long and we were just doing things that no team has really ever done. I don't have the numbers in front of me, nor do I really know how we even quantify that. I guess you could look at record and stuff like that, but I don't think any team has ever put together a run like that, going from 0.2% to winning a playoff series to opening the next season as the best team in baseball for half the season. So a lot of ups and downs, but we were definitely spoiled with the ups.
Yeah, and the season is far from over. I mean, they're still in the driver's seat for the Central. They still have everything in front of them, even though there has been some downs the last month and a half. But I mean, last 14 games, and we could break down a little bit, but the boys are 9-5 in their last 14. So they are winning some games, albeit, you look at the schedule and, they're not playing as many playoff caliber teams. Just out west playing the Angels, they suck. Now they're playing the White Sox, doo-doo, really, really bad. So they're playing some teams that aren't great, but, this is a schedule. You play who you play. You're going to have ebbs and flows to the schedule, and a lot of that is because sometimes you're playing really good teams, and it's on the road, and you're, traveling a bunch. Sometimes you're playing at home, and you're playing the White Sox. So, yeah, I mean, it's not all bad. Tyler and I, we had some stuff to talk about this summer because the team was playing bad, so that's not the end of the world, and hopefully this they kind of, come out of this rut a little bit and really make a run. It's August. We saw the Gritty Tigs last year. It started now. I mean, why not us now? Why can't it start again?
Do we actually, maybe we owe them a thank you because, in sports and media and stuff, great sells and bad sells. If you're just kind of mediocre and average, you run out of things to talk about. That doesn't sell. No one wants to hear that. So maybe we owe them a thank you that they were so good for half the year and we had a lot to talk about how good they were. And then they were so bad for 2 months. So we still had stuff to talk about. And so maybe we owe them a little bit of a thank you. But yeah, you're right. It's no fault of their own that they have had an easy schedule the last 2 weeks and that they're going to continue to have an easy schedule for the next 3-4 weeks. Hopefully we can kind of continue to get that lead back up. We obviously, I think the record or the top lead that we had this year was 15.5, I believe, in the division. Got all the way down to 5, I think. Right now, as it sits at the moment, as of this morning, I actually don't know if the Guardians played this afternoon. It was back up to, I believe, 6.5. And the
Yeah.
Tigers obviously just kicked off. If you're listening to this now, you already know the results, but they just got out of their rain delay on Tuesday night. So it's not their fault that their schedule is getting easier. Let's just hope that like they can take advantage of it and start to build that division lead back up. I would be really excited and really happy if we can get that back up to like 9 and not have to force guys like Scooball to start pitching on short days notice just because so we can get that, that I don't want to say automatic dub, but they get that confidence on the mound. We can maybe have them skip an outing or two to get them fully ready for October, because this is still, while they've been great all season, we've had good veteran representation this year. It's still a young team that doesn't have much playoff experience. So getting into October baseball is still new to most of these guys. So like, let's get that AL division lead back up to like 9 or something, so we can start to give a little bit of a rest to some of these guys. And it very well could start with that Veerling home run he hit the other day, and even continuing with that Torkelson home run, what would be last night for us against the White Sox there. It could be the stuff that sparks us to finish out the season.
Couple beasts right there, a couple guys who've been struggling, and we've been really public on this pod and kind of calling them out that they're both slumping. I mean, Vierling, he had the injury and never really had a spring training or anything, and it's so we know why he's slumping to an extent, but I mean, what a knock. And then of course Torque, just a moonshot that I think hit the pole and left. It was just arcing, and he's like he's still at home plate, he's like, please stay fair. And it was, oh man, that was awesome. So great to see from those two guys. I'm pumped for playoff baseball, and I know they're going to get there. I mean, regardless, they have such a good chance to get there, even if it's a wild card spot. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. I still think this team has a lot left in the tank, even with the struggles.
It's probably an inverse. If we had 0.2% chance to make the playoffs last year, it's maybe, I wouldn't say maybe it's that high right now, but it's probably almost the inverse. We probably have, like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, probably like a 98% chance to make the playoffs at the moment. So like almost an exact inverse 1 year later. But yeah, you mentioned the two guys that were struggling. Veerling, I think he actually like swung himself back onto the injury list. He's back on the 10-day IL with an oblique injury that I actually don't know if that had anything to do with the home run or the swing, but it's just at this point comical that he had like contributed for once this season and then immediately injured himself and sent him back onto the IL. But yeah, you mentioned, so we're going to be looking at kind of going down the stretch. We're going to be tracking the Tigers division lead, another record that we're going to be tracking as we get down to the wire here. Riley Green's strikeout record. So Riley Green, we talked about him ad nauseum. There's a lot of different media outlets that are talking about him. It's kind of the news here in Detroit. Riley Green is barreling towards the all-time strikeout record in one season. So as of now, that I just looked this up real quick. As of the record in the MLB was set in 2009 by Mark Reynolds, 223 strikeouts in a single season. Riley Green at the moment has 157 strikeouts. So he is well on pace to be right about there. So that we'll be tracking the Tigers division lead, and then we will also be tracking the strikeouts for Riley Green.
Yeah, man, Riley Green. I mean, it's I can't tell if I'm like upset about it that he's going to set a record. I really don't care as long as the team like meets all of their goals and makes the playoffs, and he's not like a complete liability in the playoffs. Like we talked about him against lefties, like really struggling. As long as he like kind of pulls that together, at least to some extent, and hits lefties like as good as he has, last year, the year before. Still not great, but it's not a liability. I really don't care that much. I mean, I would rather him not have a strikeout record. Like I just would rather any other player in baseball to have that, other than a Tiger and other than a current Tiger. But yeah, I mean, he's struggling. He's not the only guy around the league struggling right now. I mean, I'm just looking at a couple like big name players in August who are struggling at the plate. Guys like, Tatis, 2 for 26, PCA from the Cubs, 2 for 25. Even Cal Raleigh, was just having and still is having just a monster season behind, batting and hitting bombs left and right, big dumper. He's 2 for 27 in August. So there's some big time players and they're slumping. I think it's kind of what happens. Really long season in the MLB, and you're not going to be perfect the entire season, unless you're an MVP level guy, you're going to struggle a little bit at times. So I think it's probably no different than for Riley Green. But yeah, I hope he doesn't break that record.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on nail on the head. Like, I really don't give a shit about the record, like if his name's in the record, but I don't care about that. If my math is right, and I'm not a mathologist, so it might not be, he needs 1.4 strikeouts per game over their remaining 46 games in order to break it, which if it's going to continue, and I'm not saying it will, that seems very doable for him. But I mean, we talked about it last week and even the week before. The Tigers were slumping, and they were still maintaining somewhat of a lead, but like the other playoff World Series contending teams in the league were also slumping. Like you look around it, they were also kind of going through the same things. You just mentioned those guys that are also going through slumps. It really truly is just going to come down to who can kick out of that slump first and propel their team. Like which team is going to get their all-star player back first and be the most productive come October, and that's just going to be the team that that can end up winning the pennant and in the World Series. So like we pray that it's our guy. And it also is important to note, like, Riley had his slump earlier in the season. He was a guy, he was really struggling, and he was able to get kind of out of it and got red hot, and that led into the All-Star break, and that's why he was named that All-Star. Like, he got so hot that his numbers still don't look that bad right now, even with this insane slump he's in. That's how hot he was. So like, he's done it already once this season. So like, it's not wouldn't be that impossible for him to do it again. So yeah, it's super important to remember that like everyone is slumping right now, and it's just really going to be who can come out of the slump first.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a few things just based on the deadline, a few of the guys that we didn't get on the deadline, and then one kind of more opportunity that the Tigers have this upcoming year to add some people. So we talked a few weeks ago when we broke down who we wanted the Tigers to get, why, how they fit, stuff like that. If you're interested in some history stuff that didn't actually end up happening, go back and take a look at that episode. But we talked about like Eugenio Suarez. Eugenio was someone that we desperately wanted, a bat that we wanted to add to the middle of this lineup. Just as hindsight's 2020. If we would have gotten him based on what he went for, I think we all would have been happy. Like no one would have been mad. But since Eugenio Suarez was dealt in the 10 games, he has a 0.105 batting average, a 357 OPS, just one home run, and a negative .5 WAR. So like if that was someone on this team, like fans would be actively furious with him, and it would be kind of an ugly situation. So again, hindsight's 2020. But let's be a little bit thankful that he's not doing that in a Tigers uniform. David Bednar, who is the reliever on the Pirates that we talked about, possibly adding to this bullpen. He, in his 6 innings pitched for the Yankees, he has a 3 ERA, which for only 6 innings pitched is not good for a reliever, a guy who is supposed to be a shutdown closer. Merrill Kelly, in his 2 games, he has 10 innings pitched, 5.4 ERA. So like I know. It's hindsight's 2020. You can't look back at these guys, and it's going to take some time for these guys to adjust to their new teams, the new rosters, the new stadiums, everything, traveling, and they probably will figure it out when it comes October time in the playoffs, and they, I'm sure, will contribute to their teams. But like at the moment, let's be thankful that we don't have these guys slumping on top of the other guys slumping.
Pretty small sample size.
Hey, I'm going to cherry pick it.
I feel like
if it's going to help
you're grasping at straws, considering that they had just moved to new teams. I did just talk about like Tatis and PCA and Cal Raleigh, also small sample sizes, but those guys are on the same team. These guys just got dealt that you just talked about.
Well, and there's one more opportunity that maybe we could get some reinforcements. So I saw an interview with Anthony Rizzo. I forget the podcast that it was on and or TV show. I don't recall what it was. But he was talking about that Chicago Cubs team that he won the World Series with. And he was talking about how at the deadline they went out and got Aroldis Chapman, and Aroldis was the number 1 reliever in the world at the moment. And when they went out and got him, he said it's like a common thing amongst MLB dugouts and ball clubs that like when you go out and get the top player, it literally energizes you, and you're like, oh, this is a guy, an absolute dog. Like he's gonna come help us. B, it tells the players that the front office believes in them, and like, hey, we are in this to win this right now. We don't care what it's gonna cost. We're gonna add some guys. We're gonna win this right now, and it does so much for their mental health. The way they play the second half of the season. Obviously, as fans, we were all disappointed in how our deadline ended up going. I can't imagine the players were all that happy. So there is one more opportunity for the front office to kind of provide that spark to our players and maybe give them a little kick in the boot for this little slump they're on, and that is on August 31st. So August 31st is the deadline for waived players to be added to a team and make the playoff roster. So that basically means if you were a team that was looking to sell, you have a guy that you're trying to get out from a contract. He's going to be an impending free agent, something like that. You want to make a move, trying to sell him at the deadline. Nobody was going for it. He's still on your team. You still can cut him, and as long as he clears waivers, then you can do whatever you want with him. Now, this deadline is a time in which a lot of teams will cut those guys, cut them loose. And if they don't make clear with waivers, like Detroit can go up and scoop one of those guys. So there's a few different guys that I have listed. I saw online listed as potential waiver targets that the Detroit Tigers could target and add to this team. So you have Josh Bell, first baseman, hitting 229, 14 home runs. So just kind of another power bat. 14 home runs, not crazy. 229, not great, but 14 home runs is better than a number of guys on our team. Marcell Ozuna, 239 with 18 home runs. So a little bit better average, better home runs. Not quite at the Torkelson level home run, but around the same average there. Raciel Iglesias, a 4.39 ERA out of the bullpen. And then you might be saying that's a little bit high. Since June 1st, he has a 1.09 ERA, so he's going on a good 2 months of really good bullpen action, has a 1.11 whip, so maybe someone that we can add. If they end up cutting him, we can add to our bullpen there. Tommy Pham, 268 with 5 home runs, so really good average, not much in the power division there. Kenley Jansen, 273 ERA, 1.05 whip, so like there's guys that are out there that didn't get dealt at the deadline. They may get cut, they may not, they might just stay with their teams, but if they get cut, Detroit should definitely be the first teams calling on trying to sign some of these guys.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them will be available. I can't believe Kenley Jansen, 2.72 ERA. Is that guy like 50 years old? Like, that's wild. He's still pitching.
Dude, and he's a former catcher. He might be had the wildest story in the MLB. He was a former bullpen catcher, and he ended up being one of the best closers in baseball and is still doing it at a high level. I'm surprised he wasn't dealt at the deadline. A lot of these guys, I think, were tagged and expected to be dealt and just never were. Their teams are maybe asking too much or something. So you're right. They might not be available, but damn it, if they get waived, we better be the first teams calling on them for not only just to help us, but literally to help the mentality of this team going into playoff baseball.
Man, it'd be sweet. Yeah, I mean, even a guy like Ozuna, who, say what you will about him, like off the field, but on the field, like he's maybe a little older. He still hits bombs though. Mm-hmm. Like I could see him even in like a pinch hitting role in a big moment. Like he could step up to the plate and hit an absolute bomb. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's not, this Tigers lineup, it could still be taking shape. We could have maybe one of those guys on the team, maybe a guy from the minors on the team down the stretch and in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, there could be some reinforcements coming.
Yeah. And we already got our reinforcement in Kerry Carpenter. He's been absolutely fantastic the past week, but I digress there.
Love Carp.
Let's get to some other stuff. We have a real fun, actually it kind of feeds into what we just talked about like we wanted those guys to be dealt to the Tigers. We talked about Eugenio Suarez, a lot of what ifs. So what we have for you guys today is a Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports what ifs. We thought it was kind of fitting there. Are getting through playoff baseball, or getting through end of season baseball, getting through the preseason of the Lions. We figured it'd be a great time there. So let's get to that. Let's do a real quick random number generator to figure out who gets to go first. Just as a side note, remember Kyle has never won the first overall draft pick, so that might be why he's on a little bit of a heater, because he gets technically the second and third best picks out there. But I digress there again. Real quick, even or odd for the random number generator?
It's Even's turn. Even is coming up on top here. I'm going even.
So just so everyone, if you see first Mount Rushmore, I just do a quick random number generator, 1 through 10. You said even. We'll generate real quick. Finally, the kid does it. It's a 2. So Kyle, you will get the first overall pick in the Detroit sports what ifs, all-time what ifs, good, bad, indifferent. Where are you going with your first overall draft pick?
I think this is big in Mount Rushmore's past that we've done. There hasn't necessarily always been a number one what if. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, but in my mind, there is a clear number one what if. And I'm going with it right now. My number one Detroit sports what if. What if the Detroit Pistons do not take Darko Milicic in the, I think it was 04 draft or 03 draft, whenever it was, and instead they take a Dwayne Wade or a Carmelo Anthony or even a Chris Bosh, a what if, and just such a massive what if, because even after taking Darko, the Pistons go on and win the NBA Finals the following season. And that was the last finals that the Pistons have won as a franchise. And I just can't help but thinking, if you take a Carmelo Anthony, like one of the best scorers of his generation, a Dwayne Wade, one of the best point guards, shooting guards of his generation, that, this turns into a dynasty where, that Pistons team wins 2, 3, 4 championships. Hell, they almost won 2 championships with the Darko pick. That's the biggest what if for me in Detroit sports history is, what What if they don't take Darko and they just turn that team, that going to work Pistons team, just into a dynasty?
I think that was, I mean, obviously it's on my list. It's obviously in my top of my list. I don't necessarily agree that like that was the absolute one. I think that has to be like one, like I said, it could be up there for one. Yeah, I mean, they asked Carmelo Anthony about it in recent years about what he thought he would be able to bring to Detroit. And he went on to say, you know, they would have won multiple championships. And I think that would work that for that. And that's why this is so fun, the what ifs, because that next year, the Pistons went out and traded for Rasheed Wallace, and that was kind of the piece that, like, the final piece that the Pistons needed to win that championship. And he brought that edge to Detroit, and like it was a perfect fit for that. So if we draft Carmelo Anthony, maybe we don't get Rasheed Wallace. Maybe that we never win a championship. That's what's so beautiful about this Mount Rushmore. And the other thing is like, Darko was a good pick. I think he was slated to like. I don't think it was a reach at the time. I might be wrong on that. I think I read somewhere that like Darko wasn't that much of a reach as people remember it as, obviously because, you know, revisionist history, the guys that went around him. But like, I think I remember reading like Darko was, people agreed with the pick at the time. But that's a great, I mean, make it multiple championships. I think that's fair to say. A huge what if there. So that's a great 1-1. I think that probably would have been my 1-1 had I have won that, but that's a great one there. So for my first pick in the Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports what ifs, this is where I thought maybe you were going to go. I'm going to go with, what if Konstantinov does not get in that limo and the limo doesn't crash?
Yeah.
Konstantinov never gets hurt. The Detroit Red Wings continue their dynasty for even longer, keep that core together, and they're able to just absolutely dominate even more than they already did with a healthy Konstantinov adding along the way.
Yep, had it on my list. That's a big one. That especially that defensive core just solidified for the Wings. Yeah, I think it's a great pick.
So my next pick, and so I think those, in my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think those are the top two picks. I think those are like the two when you think about this, those are the first two that come to mind. They were my number one, number two. I think there's a lot of great value in like my next, I don't know, 8. I mean, I got a lot of these. There's a lot of what ifs in Detroit sports history. I've like can go anywhere with these. I think I'm going to go with, what if the pass interference call against the Cowboys was never called in the Detroit Lions playoff series back in 2014? What if that call with that ghost pass interference call was never called, and the Detroit Lions end up driving down the field? Who knows what we end up doing there?
Yeah, that's a more niche pick. I didn't have it on my list, but it is a play that definitely lives rent free in my head, especially every time we play the Cowboys. I think about that play. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting pick, and I think I mean, fuck the Cowboys always.
I don't think you agree with my pick there.
I didn't have it on my list. I'll just say that.
All right, it's
no other rebuttal from you.
No, it's okay if you don't have it on your list. I had it on mine. I've proven to not be the better of the two of us for these Mount Rushmores, so I think it's your pick, right?
No, I think it's okay. I do think it's a good what if. I personally didn't have it on my list, but
that's fine. Your pick, right?
Yep, I think I have 2 now. If we're getting lost in the snake draft again, I'm pretty sure I have 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with I like this pick. What if the Tigers re-signed Max Scherzer in 2015? I think about this a lot. I think about the core pitching staff that the Tigers had at this time. You know, Scherzer stays with Verlander, with David Price, and you know they potentially end this massive drought, massive championship drought. Obviously, they haven't won since '84. Couldn't get it done in 2006. Couldn't get it done in 2012. And instead, Scherzer leaves for Washington. It was a record contract, so I do get why maybe Ilitch didn't want to shell out the money for that, or maybe he was done shelling out the money. He might have even passed away around that time, so R.I.P. Mike Ilitch. But you know, at any rate, Scherzer leaves for Washington, and he solidifies himself as one of the best pitchers of the generation. You know, just has massive success for years to come after that 2015 season. Hell, he's still in the league now. It's 2025. I just feel like that's a big what if for me. Like, what if the Tigers do re-sign him in 15 and they keep Verlander? Verlander's still, at the top of his game, struggles with a little injury, but of course we know that Verlander was able to, still sustain massive success years and years and years after that. And maybe the Tigers win a championship, their first since '84. So that's a big what if for me.
Yeah, I think that was on my list. Obviously, I don't think I mean, the Dodgers are definitely trying to replicate it. I don't know if we'll see like a rotation as good as that one. I mean, you walked it through. It's absolutely insane how good that rotation was and how many Cy Youngs. And I think all of them went on to win World Series outside of Detroit, right?
They did, yeah. Even guys like I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was a Cy Young guy. I think went to the Jays after. Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. Bad podcasting, but yeah, he won a Cy Young. So yeah. So I'm going with Scherzer. Let's see. I got a lot left on the board. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. And this is another one rent free in my head because this guy, I mean, he was larger than life, literally. When he retired, I'm gonna go. What if Calvin Johnson doesn't retire in his prime, in the heart of his prime for the Lions, paired with Stafford, a Stafford who continually gets better and better, and he's still near the top of his game right now. What if Big Play CJ doesn't retire and the Lions, make a run in a playoffs? Because obviously we never saw a playoff win until 2 years ago. I can't help but think that if CJ, who is still very much at the top of his game, what if the Lions didn't kind of, maybe not mistreat him, but, as a franchise that kind of weren't great about treating any of their players. I don't necessarily blame him at all for wanting to retire. It just seems like that was the culture of the Lions back then. But what if things were different and he doesn't retire in his prime and, the boys maybe make a run in the playoffs?
Yeah, that was definitely on my list. It's a what if. It's hard for him because when he retired, he already wasn't practicing. He was after he had retired and he came out and said like he was smoking weed like every single day just in order to get out of bed. Like he was in so much pain. So like, I think you would have to say like he's given like a new body in order to continue. But that was huge. I mean, him and Stafford, that connection is one of the best connections we've seen in the last 15 years. The best one we've ever seen in Detroit. You can't even argue Goff and Amon-Ra as much as we love them. It's Stafford and Calvin. And again, you keep that band together. Maybe that pass interference doesn't go that way. And who knows? Who knows what they would have done if Detroit dark days and the Quintricia era days, if that would have ever came to be and stuff. And it's interesting. It's crazy to know how many like different records Megatron would have broken had he have continued and been able to continue to play. So that's a great pick. That was definitely on my list. I'm going to go with my third and fourth picks so we don't get stuck in this draft. We get this figured out. I'm going to go with my third pick. I'm going to piggyback right off that. I think I was going to pick this anyways. You got to go with it. What if Barry Sanders didn't retire just in the middle of his career? I know there was rumors, and I don't know if actually it was ever proven or came out and said that it was true that his dad didn't want him to break the rushing record, and that's why he retired. Don't know if there's any truth to that, but we had to think, what if Barry didn't retire right in the height of his dominance? He definitely would have broken the rushing record. The Lions, again, would have changed the trajectory of the Lions. Maybe it would have kept us out of our same old Lions phase that we went through with McMillan and all those terrible GMs and coaches and stuff. I mean, he easily, he already is considered one of the best running backs of all time. I think if he would have played longer and kind of the same longevity of a normal running back, I think there would be no doubt he would have been the best running back in NFL history.
Yeah, I had that very high, and I was literally the pick before when I went with Calvin Johnson. I was like, which one do I choose? Because I probably can't get both, and I know whichever one I choose, you're going to go with the other. I didn't want both on my draft board. It just And I went with CJ. Could have easily went with Barry Sanders. I mean, that's what a huge one if, especially the way he retired after the draft too, which kind of rubs me the wrong way. Even though I didn't, I was like 3 years old when it happened.
Yeah.
So obviously live it didn't rub me the wrong way. But I heard about it after, and I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. There was just no continuity of the Lions might have drafted a running back if they knew he was going to retire. So yeah, it was just all things bad, and then. Of course, like from the year he retired in 99, from 2000, even through, the Lions have been shit forever, right? But they were certainly really, really bad for decades after he retired. It seems like the team was never the same again until kind of right now. Yeah, awesome pick.
We were looking for, after him, and I'm sure there's a few running backs in there that I'm not thinking of, but like my memory goes to, we were struggling at the running back position for so long. We had like Kevin Smith and Joy Bell
Smith,
Mikel LaShore and Javid Best. Reggie Bush was our number one running back for a few years. Like, that is how sad our running back position was for so many years after him. And again, I'm sure there's a guy in there I'm not remembering from the late 90s and early 2000s, but yeah, it definitely set the franchise in a different path than I think a lot of people thought. So
Yep.
I want to Barry with my third pick. With my fourth pick, I'm gonna go with one that actually was, I don't, maybe it subconsciously allowed me to or helped me think of this Mount Rushmore, but we had a listener voicemail a few weeks ago talk about the kind of, I don't remember if it was actually like what ifs, but it was specifically talking about the Detroit Pistons and the expansion draft and Rick Mahorn. So I'm going to go with, what if the expansion draft in 1989 never took place in the NBA? The Detroit Pistons didn't lose Rick Mahorn, what the franchise would be, what if there would be, because you look at Rick Mahorn, his numbers weren't all that crazy for on that 1989, 88, 89 team, but I mean, 6'7", 240, just setting like punishing screens. He was an absolute physical presence, just an enforcer, hard fouls. I mean, he was one of the bad boys in the late 80s. Even with just his 7.3 points per game, he was able to guard big guys and push guys around. He gave Detroit that tough, swagger that we all know and love from the Detroit grit, before then. So the Detroit Pistons obviously went on to I think they lost in 88 and they went on to win in 89. I think that's what it was. So had we have kept Rick Mahorn, we didn't lose him to the expansion draft. Who knows if that would have been even more of a dynasty than it already was. Maybe maybe that would have taken away some of Michael's stuff, Michael's championships and stuff like that. I think that would have changed the entire landscape of the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. And you never really know. Yeah, it sucks. Obviously, you lose a guy in like free agency, or if you trade a guy, obviously that's on your own accord, right? But to lose a guy to the expansion draft, like I don't know how the expansion draft worked back then, but I'm assuming that the Pistons could have, marked some guys as safe and some guys you can't mark your whole team as safe, and they go to another team in the expansion draft. So yeah, it sucks that happens. I mean, the league's growing, but yeah, who knows? Maybe the Pistons go for a three-peat. And of course, you mentioned Michael Jordan. He was kind of just, surging into what we know as Michael Jordan, getting those three championships in the early 90s and then the mid to late 90s. So yeah, you never know, but I still think it's a good pick. Yeah, when you think of the bad boys, you think of Rick Mahorn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe, who knows if we would have kept him, who knows if we would have put a little more of a beat down on Michael. But yeah, you want to get some honorable mentions.
I would love to, but I have one more pick.
That's impossible. There's simply no way you have one more pick remaining.
I do. Dude, you know how the snake draft works. It's not going to stop at you with two.
This is the first time that you've had the first overall pick. I've had second, so I'm all out of sorts.
I've only drafted, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong. I've only drafted three different ones. I have the Darko, Scherzer, and then Calvin Johnson. So I do get one more.
All right, go ahead.
I know you're trying to handicap me here, but
go ahead. I'm going to take a win any way I can take it, but go ahead. You can get your fourth pick.
I'm going to go this one. I feel like this doesn't get talked about as much as a what if. But I like it, and it happened, and it makes perfect sense. And I'm going to go with it as a what if. What if the Detroit Tigers drafted Derek Jeter? And I'm going to say Kalamazoo kid. Tigers passed on him in 92 in that draft. They took Phil Neville instead, who played just 3 years for the Tigers. Phil Neville, 3 years for the Tigers. Jeter, of course, became a Hall of Fame shortstop. He went, I think, a mere couple of picks after Phil Neville in the draft. And the reason why I say the Tigers passed on him, just because he was, a Michigan kid, a Kalamazoo kid. So it's not like he was just a rando and, wasn't on radars. I guarantee you that Derek Jeter was on some radars. He went, top 5 in the draft, whatever it was. And the Tigers passed on him. And so, I mean, what if the Tigers take Jeter and, the horrendous years of these early 2000s baseball? What if instead we just have an anchor and a Hall of Fame shortstop, the captain on our team? Maybe a championship. Maybe that changes the entire trajectory of a Tigers team, and a championship comes to Detroit. So I'm going with Derek Jeter as my last what if.
A local kid. We didn't make that mistake with Hutch. We went with the local kid and seemed to pay off there. So now we are officially through the draft. Now let's get to some honorable mentions. A few of the guys that I had. I was trying to go, because a lot of these, it is somewhat of a depressing, like, Mount Rushmore, talking about these what ifs. Like, a lot of these are like, what if this guy didn't get hurt? What if this guy, how good would we have been? I was trying to think of some other one, the opposite ones, like good things that went our way, and like what if that didn't happen? And I struggling a little bit. I thought, what if the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade never comes to fruition and Stafford stays with Detroit, Goff stays with the Rams? I think
Wow.
that was a trade that worked out perfectly for both teams. The Rams got their Super Bowl. We got, all those picks and we were able to set ourselves up for success. I think that worked out perfectly. So like, what if that fell through at the last minute? What if Stafford I think he had no trades clause. I don't know if he did. What if Stafford didn't want to go to LA and basically said, no, I want to stay here in Detroit? Where would both teams be? I think that was kind of the only one I could think of that was like something good that happened. And what if that didn't end up coming through?
Yeah, I'm just thinking now, what if that never happened? I mean, the Lions are just not who they are right now. I mean, there's so much of that core that came from draft picks, as a result of the Matthew Stafford trade. So, yeah, I don't know. Even with Brad Holmes, even with Dan Campbell, I mean, I think the team has success still, but without those draft picks, they just don't have as many weapons. So, yeah.
Yep. So I had them. I had what if Chris Webber never called the illegal timeout for the Michigan Fab Five? They probably go on to win that game, win the championship for Michigan there. And I know that there a lot of stuff happened with that team. I think there probably is a little bit less issues with that team, or I guess maybe even more if he called that timeout and I actually won and stuff like that. So I thought that was one. I had the same rotation in 2014. You got any other honorable mentions?
I had a few, a few championship or like NBA Finals mentions, honorable mentions that I almost picked. One that I really like. What if the Pistons don't lose Game 5 of the 2005 NBA Finals? That game, for the listeners who might not remember or maybe weren't even alive for that, went to overtime. Spurs ended up winning that game, and then the Spurs ended up winning the NBA Finals in '05. So, in a 2-2 series, you win Game 5. A lot of times you win the series. So, yeah, the Pistons get another championship. They solidify themselves as a mini dynasty at worst in the early to mid 2000s. I had that on my list. Another one, just a gut-wrenching Game 7. What if the Wings beat the Penguins in Game 7 in Detroit in 2009, in the 2009 Stanley Cup Finals? Huge what if for me. Again, that would have created a dynasty. That would have been a back-to-back as well. The Wings obviously won it the year before in '08. Against the Penguins. So yeah, you're creating, what if one bounce of the ball or the puck goes different and the Pistons or the Wings go back to back, and now you're saying, oh, these are mini dynasties versus just one championship. So couple big what ifs there. And then for the Pistons, you could say a what if for, name your draft in the mid 2000s to late 2010s, even to present day almost, excluding guys like, Cade and Asar, J.I. We've done better in years past, but, what if the Pistons draft Devin Booker or, what you could name your pick. I had Book on my list just because he was another, hometown kid, Michigan kid, Grand Rapids, had affiliate and ties to, Detroit. What if the Pistons draft Book? But you could, name your draft, and the Pistons have squandered
Donovan
it.
Mitchell came in and worked out for the Pistons. Didn't miss a single shot in his workout, and the Pistons took Luke Kennard. I think Luke Kennard over him.
I think Luke Kennard, and then Halliburton. I think you were probably just going with Halliburton. Halliburton had a fantastic workout for the Pistons. What if the Pistons draft Halliburton instead of Killian Hayes?
Shout out Taylor. Yeah, you just jogged my memory with a bunch of these. So what if LeBron James doesn't score 25 straight points in the 2007 Game 5 Eastern Conference Finals? It was a double overtime victory, so if he doesn't score 25 straight, the Pistons probably win that. Maybe another one. What if, going back to football, what if the Lions drafted Aaron Donald instead of Eric Ebron? Like where that
had that on my list.
Defensive line with Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, like that would have been that was a top 5 defense, I think, at the time. That was when we actually went to the playoffs. Like we weren't that terrible those years. Like that defense would have been ferocious with Aaron Donald.
That would have been insane. Donald and Sue, like you're looking at one of the best defensive lines in that decade. So yeah, I had that very much on my list. Thought about picking it. Another Tigers one. This is not as much of a what if because they got swept, but like what if the Tigers don't get swept in the 2012 World Series? What if they win that World Series with one of the best pitching cores of all time? Verlander, Scherzer, Doug Fister, Rick Porcello, Anibal Sanchez, just absolute heat in 2012. What if they win that World Series? Well, the what if is they'd have World Series. So That's probably why I didn't
Well,
pick
maybe
that one.
maybe
But, what if things go
yeah,
different?
maybe you could say, what if we don't sweep the Yankees in the series before? Because that year was a lot of like rest versus rush kind of thing, rust versus kind of thing. We swept the Yankees, then we had to sit and wait for a little bit, and then we got swept. So like maybe what if we don't sweep the Yankees, and then it's not a rest versus rust, and we get swept. So maybe it's that. Maybe then who knows if we win the World Series. But yeah, this was a really fun. Like I said, it kind of did tie in really well with a few of these guys that we talked about that we didn't end up getting at the trade deadline and the numbers that they're putting up for their new teams. So a lot of what ifs. Really fun one. If you guys have any ones that we missed, make sure to we'll put this out on social media, on TikTok and Instagram. Follow us there, and then leave your comments on the ones we missed, because like even just as we're going through our honorable mentions, I just thought of like 3 that I hadn't even had on my list. So I'm sure we missed a whole bunch. Make sure you guys comment on those and leave yours, and then we'll put a poll out there so you guys can vote to see who won the Detroit Sports What If Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, this was such a fun one. And I think it's because like, and we go to all the negatives, but that's because like as Detroit sports fans, like there has literally been so many what ifs and like so many heartbreaks and so many wrong, either wrong calls, or I had the Armando Galarraga one too. Like what if, that call goes, obviously we get a perfect game, but like there's so much shit that seems to happen to us. And maybe it's just because maybe it's every sports, fan base, but I don't think so.
You just reminded me. What if there's no roughing the punter call on Michigan State in the against Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship?
Big Ten championship.
There's so many, dude. We could go on. We could literally do a full show on just Detroit sports what ifs.
Man, yep. There's just so much heartbreak, man.
Okay,
so hey, it makes for good.
Yeah, right. Though. We got to keep going though. So we're just gonna rapid fire some of these other things. We have kind of a little bit to touch on the Lions, a little touch on the Pistons, and then we're gonna wrap up with some grit of the week. We're gonna rapid fire a little bit. So let's go to the Lions. They had their second preseason game. Obviously, we got absolutely dog walked in the Hall of Fame game against the Chargers. Come out this game a little bit different, and you can't take very much from preseason. Obviously, you got all these guys that are trying to make the team. You can't take very much from any of it. We did get Hendon Hooker to start this game, so we got to see a little bit more of him. I don't know about you. I kind of am fully out on Hendon Hooker. Like I thought, again, even though he got the start, like Kyle Allen thoroughly outplayed him, and I'm all on the Kyle Allen train for backup QB.
Yeah, dude, Kyle Allen, I definitely agree with you on Hooker. Kyle Allen, that ball that he threw to Tesla for that touchdown, like
in the corner of the end zone,
ball, man. Yeah, for the touch, it was a touchdown.
Yeah,
right?
well, he had the one in the corner of the end zone, and then he also had a deep ball that got them there into the red zone. Both of them were really good balls.
Yeah. Were they both to Tesla? I know the touchdown was.
No, the touchdown was to Tesla. The one right before that, it was actually a great routes run by Tesla. And I think Jody Meeks played college basketball. Jordan Meeks, something Meeks. Both of them ran great routes. And truly, like they were kind of converging at the middle of the field, and either one of them were so open they could have caught it. It ended up going to non Tesla. And then obviously he had the touchdown like a few plays later. So like 2 great balls by Kyle Allen. I think he's our backup QB moving forward.
He's got to be, man. I think Hooker. I think the Hooker experiment is over. And yeah, I mean, in hindsight, 3rd round pick on him, and woof, he doesn't seem like he quite has it.
Yeah.
So that sucks. But the bigger story, and I mean, everyone's probably seen it, but the game was canceled. Mo Norris going to tackle actually Michigan State Spartan Nate Carter, and just a really, really scary tackle. His neck snapped backwards. He was carted off the field, and the game was ultimately canceled. I think both teams were like, yeah, we really don't want to keep playing, especially considering that this game it's preseason. It is meaningless. There are things that are bigger than football. So I definitely commend both teams and both coaching staffs for being like, yeah, there's no reason to finish this game. There's a quarter left. So super scary on Mo Norris. He was discharged from the hospital. He's totally fine, full range of motion, all extremities. Tweeted out that he's all good. Amen. Don't stress about it. And that he appreciated the check-ins. But yeah, that was probably the biggest story from the game. It was super scary when it happened.
It was really scary. They were actually interviewing Sam Laporta on the sideline. And so they showed the play, and it was just live football. And then they were interviewing Sam and kind of went back to it. So you didn't get to see it very much. But as soon as he went down, he then started seizing a little bit. And they immediately, shout out to the staff, they were doing a great job. They had so many people on the field to do what they needed to do. Got him. He was blinking. I saw him blinking on the field as they were taking him away, so he was at least awake. And then, yeah, like you said, that they took him to a local hospital. He was able to discharge. It's crazy that he's just now in concussion protocol. Like that's the only injury that he had, and it's just a reminder of how violent the sport can be. I've never seen anything like that where they came back and played. Obviously, when they were when he was down and they were attending to him. Dan Campbell and Raheem Morris, the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons, were talking. Apparently, they were like saying like, "Hey, we don't want to finish this game. Like you mentioned, it's just preseason. It doesn't matter. No one's gonna be able to play after this." So they just snapped the ball, and it's just a loophole that like as long as you get the snap off and the play count before the play clock runs out, there's no in play clock essentially. So they were just standing around for upwards of 5 minutes or so, and just kind of like they came together, circled, held hands. I guess they said some prayers for Mo Norris, and then Ed Hockley, the head official for the game, went over to both coaches and said like, "Hey, obviously you guys want the games to end. Is that what you want?" They got a call from New York, and they were able to just say like, "Okay, we're just calling the game." So I've never seen anything like it, but it is just a reminder of A, how violent the sport can be, and B, that like to see that both teams come together mid game and just realize how it is just a game, and there's so much more to that. It was as terrible it was for Mo. We're so happy that he is healthy and in concussion protocol, and is they're taking the right steps now. It's refreshing to see two teams react in the way that they did and come together and just be in support of the brotherhood of the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely commend everyone. But you said you've never seen it before. There is some precedent in a real NFL game not too long ago. Damar Hamlin, when he went down, that game was also canceled. The players said we don't feel right playing this, and it was never rescheduled either. And obviously, not that it matters, but there were some pretty heavy fantasy football implications there in the Super Bowl. But yeah, so it has happened before, and it's happened in a real game, not a preseason game.
I mean, like I haven't seen where they just snapped the ball and just like stand around and know, because they never actually went on and played any further of that game, right? I think they just canceled right then and there. I've never seen them like snap the ball and just be in agreement, like let's just run out this clock for, it was a whole fourth quarter, so like they were just going to do the whole entire quarter before Hockley ended up stopping it. But yeah, Damar obviously, so that was scary, but we're so thankful that there's great news to come out of there. The other news, unfortunately, there's a lot quieter, but maybe even more detrimental, was we talked about last week. Ennis Rakestraw went down with a shoulder injury. Dan Campbell was a little bit shady on how his comments with it. I don't have the quote in front of me. It was something along the lines of like, I don't know exactly what it is, but he's going to be out for a long time at the very least, which I thought was a little bit interesting, a little bit strange that like at the very least he's going to be out for a long, long time or something like that. He is confirmed out for the season, which is just terrible for the second-year cornerback out of Mizzou. Was an absolute pit bull when he played for Missouri. A really great pick. We doubled down on cornerbacks, went with Terrion Arnold in the first round, went with Rakestraw in the second round. Was really interested to see how those two would play together. Again, he has that pit bull mentality that Detroit loves. Spent a lot of his rookie season on the IL, or the IR, I should say, and didn't really get anything going. Now he's going another year without having any NFL action. It's going to be a really uphill battle for Ennis to come back and put his mark on his NFL career and on the Lions. So it's really unfortunate there.
Yeah, this does suck, because these are pivotal years, right? Your first couple of years in the league, especially for a cornerback, one of, if not the hardest positions in football, hell, maybe in all of sports. So again, yeah, for development, extremely pivotal years, and he hasn't really played any football. I think he played maybe 8 games last year, and then 0 this year. So I think the good thing is it's a shoulder injury, and so you'd have to think this is something that you could make a full recovery from, especially as a cornerback, and come back even stronger. Wishing him best of luck in his recovery. Hopefully he comes back. He is very young. Obviously, you said second-year player. He's 23 years old, so seemingly a ton of good football left, but when you don't play your first couple of years, I get flashbacks to what's his face, the cornerback we drafted number 3 overall, and he's just Okudah, Jeff Okudah, and he never accounted. It was never anything. He's still in the league, I think, but and I'm not saying that Rakestraw's the same, but hopefully he recovers and we see a full season next year.
Yep. Yeah, so those were the two rapid-fire things we had for the Lions. We just have one thing coming from Pistons reports. The Detroit Pistons has signed Javonte Green. Javonte Green was a free agent. I think he's coming off a 1-year deal. 6'4", 32-year-old 2/3 guard. Last year, he played 68 games, averaged 5.1 points, 3.2 rebounds, 0.8 assists, shot 33% from three-point range. A really good wing defender. This is not a move that's really going to move the needle for any Detroit Pistons fan. He's probably going to come in at that like third string 2 guard, maybe third string 3 guard, mostly for his defense. But the more important thing that is coming from the Detroit Pistons with this signing is fans starting to notice that there is one roster spot left open. It is being rumored that the Detroit Pistons are leaving that roster spot open in the chance that Malik Beasley is able to figure out his legal stuff and make a return to this team, which would be just absolutely massive. If that were to be the case, we were kind of hard on them with this offseason. I think I personally gave them like a C on this offseason with their signings. You get Malik Beasley back. You get one of my favorite players back on the roster, and gives you an elite shooting. Not that he would be able to necessarily replicate his success from last year, but you get more elite shooting added to that team, and it bumps your offseason easily up to a B. So rumor is, it's not confirmed, rumor is they're leaving that roster spot open for Malik to figure out his legal off court issues that he seems fairly confident he's going to beat. He's on Snapchat and Instagram posting happy things, working out every single day, saying like, just wait, just wait, just wait. So like, maybe it will happen. Maybe we will get Malik Beasley on the Detroit Pistons next year if they are leaving this roster spot open for him.
Yeah, shit, and like for cheap because they didn't have to pay him this big contract that he earned. He earned this contract. Now, it would have been totally happy paying him, but then of course, he might be suspended or might not be able to play, and so yeah, maybe they get him for just an absolute bargain. Yeah, I still think it's wishful thinking. I think that the league, if the rumors are true, or the the reports are true on him gambling on games that he played in, like I think he's done for a long time. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think they would just ban him from the league forever, but I mean, we're talking at least a year suspension, right? So I'm trying to be glass half full. I feel like the odds of him playing for the Pistons or anywhere are decently low, but you never know. Maybe something comes up and he actually didn't do it. And maybe I give him the benefit of the doubt and he's on the Pistons for cheap. And I think that would be huge. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
I think a few weeks ago when we were going through, like when free agency started, stuff like that, I said this might work out for the better. Like you said, there's a chance we get another year of really inexpensive Malik Beasley, and you can't fault the Pistons for that. Like, that's the right thing to do. I'm going to go on record saying Malik Beasley will suit up for the Detroit Pistons this next upcoming year. I don't know if it's going to start the season, but he'll suit up for the Detroit Pistons this upcoming year. And that's my hot take of the week for that new segment I just created.
I obviously want it to happen. I don't know. I don't see it. I think the league's going to just hammer him.
Could be. It might be wishful thinking, but I bought his shirt, and so I need him to be. I need to be able to wear it. But
paid like $1,000 for it, so you need some wear out of it.
Yeah, or maybe he can. I was gonna say he can pay me back for it, but I think he's got bigger things to worry about right now. So that was our rapid fire on the Lions and the Pistons. Again, nothing too crazy. Just had the scary injuries from the Lions, the small roster stuff, and rumors from the Pistons. As we get into more and more into August, we'll get into more Lions stuff. If we hear anything else, I'm assuming the Pistons will be kind of quiet for the next few months, just until they kick off, in October. We did get the schedule released, so maybe over the next few weeks, Kyle and I can take a look at that, break that down, kind of see where we're sitting there, figure out our expected MVPs, MIPs, stuff like that we expect for the same thing we did with the Tigers, and we're going to be doing with the Lions here shortly. But let's wrap up the show with some grid of the week. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can kick us off. It's something that we just talked about recently, but I'm just going to give the grid of the week to Mo Norris, just for having just a speedy recovery. It was a scary injury, and really, I had it in my notes, like Mo Norris / really everyone involved in that game who was like, yeah, this is bigger than the league, especially a preseason game, and we're totally good with just winding the clock and praying, just saying some prayers for him. So I just thought that everyone involved, all the players, coaches, coaching staff, they handled it well. They know that some things are bigger than football, and the health of these players. I mean, they know it better than anyone. They live it every day. We're sitting on our couches, but they are taking just huge hits, scary hits left and right. And this one was especially violent and scary. So, grid of the week, Mo Norris and all the Lions and Falcons players for really doing it right.
Yeah, I think obviously he's very willing. He's very deserving of that. I think all the medical staff on field, the medical staff in the hospital, everyone that was involved in making sure he's okay is definitely deserving. I agree with you. I mean, there's guys out there that are fighting for their jobs. They're fighting for a job this upcoming year, and they, I'm sure, would have loved to use that fourth quarter to put on their resume and try and show that they deserve a spot. But yet, everyone agreed that it's just not worth it. There's no way we can play this game. So all around, great. I like that. We'll stick with Maurice Norris getting the grid of the week with a little parentheses. Both teams involved, medical staff, everyone else involved. So they're definitely deserving of that. My grid of the week, I'm gonna go with I'm going to go to the baseball diamond. We talked about the Eugenio Suarez and his numbers and how we weren't able to get him. We talked about a few other guys and we needed a bat. We also talked about in previous weeks that like our middle of the order bat might be at home, and that was Kerry Carpenter. So Kerry Carpenter is going to get my grid of the week. Just what he's been able to bring this team since coming back from injury. Over his last 14 days, he is hitting .351 with an OPS of 1.278. He has 5 home runs in his last 14 games. He has been like the spark plug. We mentioned we're 9-5 in our last 14. Not great by any means, but it's better than what we were doing. And I truly think Kerry Carpenter has been exactly that spark we needed. Even the games I think we talked about last week, even the games that he was hitless in and that he's not providing actual physical runs, he still is a power bat that opposing managers need to work around and move their pitchers around, and that helps all the other batters up and down the lineup. So adding Kerry Carpenter back to this team, his insane last 14 days with his OPS of, again, 1.278, batting average of .351. Shout out to Kerry Carpenter. He might just be the spark that we need down the line. The like I said, the middle of the order bat that we tried to get at the deadline in him. So shout out Kerry Carpenter.
Hell yes, dude. He's so sick. Like, he's just so sick, and it's awesome to see him come back from that little hammy injury and just raking, because they need it real bad. Like we've talked about it a ton. They're struggling a bit, so yeah, they need a bat in the beginning middle of that lineup, and it's been Kerry Carpenter. You mentioned going like 9-5, not so great. I just did the quick math, and if you went 9-5, if you won games of that clip throughout the entire season, you'd win 104 games. So 9-5 is not a bad thing to do, especially in baseball, where like difference between winning and losing games can be it's a game of inches for sure. So. Yeah, not so bad.
I don't want to put this on you right now because we're wrapping up the show, but like, are we on pace for 100 wins this season? I know at one point we were on pace for like 114 wins, like when we were killing it. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that next week to see. Tune in next week to see if we're on pace for 100 wins.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think it might be like mid 90s, like maybe 93
so too,
wins,
yeah.
somewhere on there, 94. But yeah.
All right, so that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and I at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Remember, we will be putting out our Mount Rushmore onto the socials with a poll, so make sure you guys are voting on that so we know who won Mount Rushmore. Kyle has a little bit of a lead on me at the moment, but I think maybe this could get me back on the right track. And then, again, this was a really fun one. There's a whole bunch of honorable mentions. Make sure you guys send your Detroit sports what ifs, anything that we missed. I'm sure there's some big ones. So make sure you guys comment with your own. We can have some fun there. Just as a little plug, if you're into streaming and gaming, make sure to jump over to the Party Chat podcast, the other podcast under the Mic Drop Studios umbrella. Give them a listen. They're bringing you guys great stuff every single week on video games, streaming, stuff of that nature. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And if you like this episode, please make sure to take a moment, rate us 5 stars, and give us a little review saying so. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar, baby.
Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.